Welcome to my next lecture on the Queen's Gambit declined, and I want to cover the Tartakower defense, which starts out by d4, d5, c4. Now I've already covered these moves in previous lectures, so for explanation to these moves, see my past lectures. e6, knight c3, knight f6, bishop g5, bishop e7, e3, black castles, knight f3, and this is where we're going to start. So I just covered the orthodox defense, which from here plays knight on b to d7. But now I want to talk about the Tartakower defense, which starts out by playing h6, and maybe just some basics on the Tartakower defense. What black plans to do is at some point play b6 followed by knight to b7, so that the bishop can look down this diagonal. And basically black's trying to get some active piece play. In exchange, though, he's going to get a pawn weakness, and he's going to get something called hanging pawns, which is generally considered these two pawns right here, but they'll stand usually on these two squares, but these two pawns, or maybe these two pawns, will not be there to help the defense. So actually, hanging pawns can be an asset to black, or it can be a pawn weakness. So depending on how you play, if white doesn't play properly, it can be a real good thing for black, or it can be a hindrance. So that's what the goal for black is, to put its bishop on the diagonal, and then get a pawn weakness. So, but the Tartakower defense starts off by playing h6. Now in this position, black is going to play bishop to h4. You could say, well, it could exchange off the knight, but it doesn't really accomplish anything. So white will play bishop to h4, and now black continues with its strategy. It's going to play b6, and now white is going to play bishop to d3. As I said before in past lectures, this is where the bishop, the bishop on f1 wants to go, so it looks down this way. And in past variations, we looked at where black has captured this, forcing black to recapture, wasting a move, which is always an option, but here black is not going to take that option. So this is the sort of normal square for the bishop in this variation. Black will play bishop to b7, continuing its strategy. Now the bishop looks down this diagonal towards the king side, which is where the king is going to castle. Now white castles. It's completed most of its, the goals of the opening: control the center, develop its pieces, castle. So it hadn't castled yet. And now black is going to play knight on b to d7. Hopefully you're starting to notice some similarities to the orthodox defense. So if you look at that lecture, the reasons for knight to b to d7 is the same. You could say, well, why didn't the knight come here? Well, if the knight does come to c6, it's sort of blocking the bishop. It also helps that the knight is better posted here, so that it can help eye these squares. White will play queen to e2, and as I said in a previous lecture, this is for anticipation of pushing the pawn forward. and now the rook, this with the queen out of the way, now this rook here is free to slide over, probably to d1. Normally in this variation, this rook will come here, and the rook on a will come to c1. Now black plays c5, striking at the center. Also another reason why the knight, this knight did not come to c6 is so black could play c5, striking at the center. And now what should white play? Well, commonly is rook on f to d1, because what's going to happen is that some pawns are going to be exchanged, and more than likely these two pawns by white are going to be exchanged off, and I've already mentioned that normally these two pawns will be left for black. So, and where you want to put your rooks are on the open or half open files. A half open file is where your pawn is missing, or example would be where if it was half open, that means this pawn by white would be missing, but a pawn for black would be there. So these are the two files. The D file and the C file are the logical two places where this is going to occur for white. So this is the logical place to put your rooks. Now black is going to play knight d4. Remember, one of the things I said about its strategy was, well, I guess what it's really doing is it's going to exchange some pieces because black is somewhat cramped. So knight d4, and then the bishops will be exchanged. And now white will take c takes d5, sort of pursuing. It knows that it's white is looking to give black a pawn weakness. It has to get something out of the opening. So this is one of the moves. And anyways, black, if I back up, black could always take on c4, and then the bishop would have to take. So, once again, sort of a delayed time-wasting move. So white says, I better capture. And then black will take back with e5. This is where I'm sort of going to end it, but you can sort of see what's going to happen. Or remember, I said that these two pawns by black are going to be hanging, which means this pawn here is going to have to get captured. White could actually do that right now in the next move and capture and take it. But actually, if it did, or it doesn't want to do that right away, now that I look at it, if it captured right away, black would just take, and then white would be forced to retake, leaving white with an isolated pawn. So I think the normal move here is to play rook on a to c1, bringing the other rook in. So, but eventually, probably this pawn by black is going to be exchanged off, leaving black with the, once again, the isolated, or the hanging pawns, I'm sorry. So that is my lecture on the Tartakower defense. My next lecture will cover the Lasker defense.